Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we're discussing the legal battle between Rogers Communications and their former CEO, Joe Natale. Now, I mean, the backstory to this lawsuit is crazy. I mean, overhearing phone calls, advance notice that you're going to be fired, calling emergency board meetings of family civil war over control of the company. I mean, if this sounds like an episode of Succession, you apparently are not the only one to think so, because one of the stranger allegations in this claim is that Suzanne Rogers, Ed Rogers' wife, paid actor Brian Cox from Succession to make a video on a platform called Cameo, congratulating Ed Rogers on his ouster of Natale, calling it a real-life succession. And this sort of troll video, I guess, eventually ended up on social media. It's been publicly available. I watched it myself. Ryan, any thoughts on that? What kind of conduct is that by an employer? How could it implicate, Mr. Natale's reputation? Are there legal consequences for that type of behavior for an employer?
It's certainly pretty salacious. You don't really see that too often, where employers make those type of videos. Absolutely, it could impact what Mr. Natale receives in terms of aggravated or punitive damages. The law is that, when you dismiss an employee, you got to treat them properly on the way out. And so in this case, there is an opportunity here for Mr. Natale's lawyers to really dig in here and say that this video was so egregious that it's defamatory and there should be damages that flow from that.
Ken, any thoughts on that video and how it could implicate Rogers as an employer?
Yeah, I agree with what Ryan said. And one of the surprising things about the statement of claim is there's no defamation claim advanced, but there is a claim for punitive and aggravated damages, as Ryan said, for this video. They've pleaded it. In a normal employment case, quite often you claim additional notice period because of such things, because your reputation is so bad that it takes you longer to find a new job. It's just there is an obligation to treat an employee with fairness and with sensitivity when on the way out. And I've had clients even where they're required by regulation to report the reasons for someone's termination, to be called to task for the way they have done that, even where there's a regulatory requirement to report somebody's termination. So this video is way beyond the pale, and I would expect they will have a lot of fun with that at trial if this ever gets that far.
So, I mean, we never give legal advice on this program, but I would say as general thought is don't do something like that if you're an employer. Now, Ken, there has been a counterclaim in this case, and one of Rogers is suing Mr. Natale back. And one of the things that a Rogers spokesperson said was that the company had hoped to deal with this matter privately. So what exactly does that mean? Like, are they saying that they had hoped for there to be a settlement before a claim was even issued? And is that reasonable, especially given the amount of publicity in this case and the fact that publicity is one way of gaining leverage for negotiation in a high-profile case?
I would correct that. I'd say the promise of publicity is one way of gaining leverage in a case like this. And it's interesting that Mr. Natale was terminated in November of 2021. And he waited almost the entire 2-year limitation period before he sued in August of this year. So that tells me that something was happening during that period of time. And most of these cases can and should settle. And these types of allegations going back and forth in pleadings and ultimately in the courtroom don't really do much for either party's reputation. So I think it normally would settle.
Ryan, the story of how this happened, of Natale being able to eavesdrop on a conversation about how he was about to get fired, it's the stuff of fiction. It's pretty crazy. But in a normal employment context, if an employee learns by accident they're about to get fired, what's the best course of action for them? We've got about 45 seconds.
Yeah, I think the best course of action is to prepare yourself. You've got a window into knowing, which doesn't happen too often, that you're going to be let go. And so you're going to want to do things to protect yourself, if you think things are going to get messy, you're going to want to, document wrongdoing. You want to reach out to a lawyer and ask their opinion about, what they should do next. And I think, you need to take appropriate action. It looks like in this case, at least the allegations from Rogers, they're saying that Natale then
we've got to go to break, but we'll be right back.